Depending on where you live in America, you're either facing a threat from Hurricane Helene or Hurricane Kamala today. And for you history buffs, today was the day in 1960 when JFK and Richard Nixon had their famous debate. The one where people said Nixon won if you heard it on radio, but those who watched it on TV said a young, telegenic Kennedy won it. It makes you wonder about the parallels we can draw from this year's presidential election. At that time, Nixon was 47, Kennedy was 43, but their age was a factor to many. Kamala is trying to do the same thing today, even though she is just 18 years Trump's junior. Unfortunately, like 1960, the media is playing favorites. Kamala finally sat down for a one-on-one interview with MSNBC, and she still fumbled, and she still did it wrong. But the left is turning a blind eye. So the question you have to ask is, will America turn a blind eye? You decide. You dictate that, not the media. This is Bryan Rudnick, fearlessly hosting from the most windiest state in America, in the Rally for the Republic headquarters, where I'm doing my best to stay dry. And with just 39 days left in this election, I'm going to talk about that, a little bit more, and answer some of your questions right after the break.
This is a battle cry for the American way of life and a relentless pursuit of truth and justice. It comes from a voice with unmatched experience and unyielding resolve. Join us as we dissect current events and tip the scales in your favor. This is Rally for the Republic with your host, Bryan Rudnick.
This is Bryan Rudnick, host of Rally for the Republic. I'm back, still here in Florida. We're hours away from Hurricane Helene hitting our panhandle with the Cat 3 or possibly Cat 4 winds. Our thoughts and prayers go out to the great Americans living in the panhandle. The storm is so large, it's actually being felt statewide. I've personally been in a tropical storm warning area and a tornado warning zone for over 12 hours. And the more I think about the storm, the more I think about how much damage a Kamala presidency could do to this country that she didn't get to finish under a Biden presidency. So it's like Act 3, Scene 2 of the Obama presidency. And before I dive deep into that race for the White House, I want to talk about Israel. Because today, for those of you who are not aware, it's the 356th day of the war. Israel bombed targets in Lebanon for the last few days. That followed by proving to the world how they put together the most miraculous, most amazing attack on their enemies through pagers and cell phones and devices like that. Makes you proud to be Jewish. Shows the world that Israel is not going to allow Hezbollah, Hamas, any of the Iran-backed proxies to continue their destruction and barbarianism. And it shows you these people, they don't want peace because they keep firing missiles into the north, and they're driving out Israeli citizens, treating them like refugees when they're seeking safe haven elsewhere in the country. And we've learned that these supposedly peaceful people that Kamala Harris wants to protect, along with the idiots at the UN, that they were hiding hostages in civilian homes and in tunnels. They've hidden missiles and drones in plain sight in Lebanon, even in civilian homes and warehouses. Anywhere they thought they could camouflage. But Israel caught on to the scheme. And Israel's pulled off just such an amazing come-from-behind war effort to show the world and their enemies that this will not be tolerated. But the enemies keep firing their rockets, and even the people of Tel Aviv have been under threat. But Israel's doing its part to make sure that its enemies understand there is a choice. There is a choice, peace or war. And Prime Minister Netanyahu got here to New York. He's addressing the United Nations tomorrow. And he said he told his generals to keep fighting with full force. That's a direct quote. So depending on which version of the news story you want to believe, Israel has offered truce after truce. Their enemies continue to find reasons to reject it. They bellyache to the world. They bellyache to France. They bellyache to the UN. But they never seem to pick a truce. They never seem to select peace. So I guess Israel's going to do what it has to do and bomb them back into the Stone Age. Hopefully that means somebody is going to survive and wave a white flag one day. But while we're waiting for that, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have been rolling out the red carpet for Ukraine's President Vladimir Zelensky. I'm going to tell you what's going on there, because you already know. This man shows up to the White House in his pajamas today, pretending like it's combat fatigues. Now, Prime Minister Netanyahu's been at war for a year. He's been at war most of his life. He isn't showing up anywhere in combat fatigues or pajamas. He shows up in a suit. So can someone please tell me why it's okay for this man to come to the White House, collect $8 billion, and do it in pajamas? If he's going to fleece the American people, can he at least put on a suit and tie? Is that so much? Is that really that hard to ask? I don't think so. You know, this man's collecting $8 billion. There's no audit trail. We know the money's going to Hunter and people connected to Joe. And he can't even put on a suit and tie to show respect to you and me, the American people that he's fleecing. Yeah, people are going to say Putin's evil. But you know what? I'm pretty sure Hezbollah, Hamas, the Houthis in Iran are a whole lot worse. In fact, Putin's not a big fan of a lot of them. He's definitely never proven to be a fan of the radical Muslims. He's fought a few of them. But the Biden-Harris regime are going to stick it to Israel, because I guess Israel just didn't pay off Hunter Biden yet. In fact, the U.S. government's still withholding arms from Israel. So when you're hearing your friends, your family, your loved ones, whomever, try to give you the bullshit sandwich or bologna sandwich about Biden and Harris support Israel, wrong. They're still withholding arms. How do I know that? I'm going to get into that and a whole lot more right after the break.
You are listening to Rally for the Republic with your host, Bryan Rudnick.
It's Bryan Rudnick here, the very rainy and windy headquarters of the Rally for the Republic. So if you haven't heard, you haven't seen it shared on social media, Senators Tom Cotton and Mitch McConnell sent a letter to Joe Biden yesterday, the 25th, demanding Israel be given Mk-84 bunker-busting bombs, Apache attack helicopters, and Caterpillar D9 tractors to clear IEDs. For some reason, the Defense Department doesn't see this as a priority, but, sending back $8 billion worth of your money to Vladimir Zelensky in his pajamas is apparently a good choice. So the U.S. also has made it clear they are doing nothing to help Israel with intelligence in fighting the war effort in Lebanon. Now, if that concerns you, I want to tell you, I'm really not certain it concerns me, because I'm pretty sure Israel is teaching the United States and most intelligence agencies around the world a lesson here about how to fight a long-term enemy. I'm pretty sure they're doing a case study, miraculous job of teaching the world how you teach people what will happen when you come after Israel and our people. And the United States should really take heed, because this is how we should be fighting our enemies too, teaching them a lesson. Not going in, soft-stepping, remembering that we signed some UN treaties or whatever, and playing nice, and then trying to rebuild countries and shipping people like Vladimir Zelensky back home in pajamas and $8 billion. No. Take a page out of the book from Israel. Fight a war to end them. But Israel's still got a big thing they've got to figure out, because we're less than a week from the Jewish New Year, Rosh Hashanah. Israel's military leaders are doing what Prime Minister Netanyahu told them to do with full force, and they're getting ready to invade Lebanon on foot. Now, this is either going to be the fastest and most decisive battle of our lifetime that hopefully ends the wars, or it's going to be one of the biggest blunders. And I'm concerned, and you should be concerned too, because as people I talked to early this morning about this, there's going to be a lot of lost lives if that happens, and that'll be very unfortunate. But if you're thinking about blunders, you may have watched The View this week. And why is that a blunder? Because you missed a great old appearance by Joe Biden. He showed up, good old Joe, forgot his tie, showed up to really dig in with the ladies of The View and look comfortable and staring out into the abyss. Makes you really wonder what he was doing there. But somebody thinks that he knew what he was doing, because they're happy to tell you how he believes that he could have won this election, and he referred to Donald Trump as a loser. And then he explained some of the most important things you're ever going to hear about Kamala Harris. So as he sat there looking like a robot at times with a blank stare, he did muster some words. Now, this wasn't just any words, and there was Whoopi Goldberg sitting there next to him, and she really did her best to prop him up and kiss his ass and tell him all sorts of nice things and feed into his ego about how angry she was that he was kicked off the stage with like no thank you party. But Joe told the American people what we really need to hear. So pay attention. If you haven't seen this video, his quote started with, and he's talking about Kamala Harris, so I don't fall out of your chair when you hear some of this. She's smart as hell, number one. She's tough. She's honorable. And the thing I like about her, remember, these are Joe Biden's words, not mine. And the one thing we share in common is that we have an optimistic view in the future, end quote. And here comes the really important part. You don't want to miss it. You're probably going to want to rewind it and re-listen to it, and then make sure you share it with about 100,000 voters. As vice president, there wasn't a single thing that I did that she couldn't do. So I was able to delegate her responsibility on everything from foreign policy to domestic policy. You heard that right, folks. So when Kamala Harris says she's running on her plans, her policies, her vision, her new way forward, her ideas, remember, Joe Biden, in full color on The View in front of their liberal base, admitted that if you don't like the economy, if you don't like inflation, if you don't like the open borders or the national security problems that America is suffering from, it's because he delegated it all to Kamala. So when you were watching that debate in September, and Trump at the end of the debate basically said, why haven't you fixed it already? Trump was right. So the media, when you're thinking about how corrupt they are, how much they lie, how much they report fake news, how much they're covering up for Kamala, if they want 1 ounce of dignity, 1 ounce of honor, they should be pounding Kamala and Team Harris with the same questions Trump asked. They should be taking Biden's words, and they know Kamala can't say Biden doesn't know what he's talking about. I mean, this is beautiful, because what is she going to say? Is she going to say Trump is right, or is she going to say Trump is wrong? Because she's the one, if she's going to say, and her team's going to say, that Biden didn't know what he was talking about, then why has she failed to enact the 25th Amendment? Because Trump's words from the debate, his closing argument, were beautiful. And I'm going to read you a small passage of it. Okay? This is President Trump at that ABC debate. He said, so she just started by saying she's going to do this, she's going to do that, she's going to do all these wonderful things. Why hasn't she done it? She's been there for 3.5 years. They've had 3.5 years to fix the border. They've had 3.5 years to create jobs and all the things we talked about. Why hasn't she done it? She should leave right now, go down to the beautiful White House, go to the Capitol, get everyone together and do the things you want to do. But you haven't done it, and you won't do it because you believe in things that the American people don't believe in. He said it. He said the quiet part out loud, and he was right. And the liberal media doesn't want you or anybody you know to hear the truth. Joe Biden said the quiet part out loud. Donald Trump said the quiet part out loud. Now let's share it with the American people. And before I came here to deliver this message to you, I watched a few moments of President Trump at 4:33 p.m. today, giving a press conference from New York City, okay, where he talked about how she's not fixed anything. He says, Comrade Kamala, and I quote, has no plans, no talent, and no ability to do it. That's all you need to know. And that's all the American people need to know. So here at the Rally for the Republic, I want to remind you that we're here to save the Republic, to serve as a voice of America for the Americans. And we accept, based on experience and logic, that our friends in the media and our enemies in the media, because it's almost one and the same, they're going to hide the facts from you and your loved ones. But saving our Republic, just like our founding fathers demonstrated, will come at a cost. Now, I'm not advocating you make the ultimate sacrifice, and I'm definitely opposed to anyone who thinks violence has a role in shaping our democracy. That's not what I'm here advocating. No. I'm turning to you, the faithful and patriotic listeners of the Rally for the Republic, to remind you that you can't wait for Donald Trump to get back into the White House. And you can't wait for Mike Johnson and the other GOP leaders on Capitol Hill to take back either house of Congress. You can't wait. You don't know if any of them are coming back in, and you don't know if they're going to be able to do it, even if they get in control. So you, the dedicated watchmen of our republic, must take action now. You must spread these truths, so help you God. Yes, because if you think Kamala lied at the debate, if you think she's lied every day that she's been in office, if you think she's lied in every interview, and then everyone around her spreading those lies, except for Joe Biden on The View, then you haven't seen anything yet. This show is about to get a whole lot worse. And how do I know? Because Politico reported that as I'm recording for you right now, what they said this morning is the Biden administration is rolling out new executive actions to address gun violence, a clear election year move with two intended goals. So think about that. The liberal Politico news outlet said an election year move. And here's how they finished. To build up Biden's legacy on the issue in the final days of his presidency and provide Harris with a fresh opportunity to highlight her role overseeing the White House Office of Gun Violence Prevention and also lean in on a galvanizing issue for young voters. You know, like the school shooting in Georgia a few weeks ago, 2 attempted assassinations on a former president. She's clearly doing another excellent job in the White House Office of Gun Violence Prevention, just like she did at fixing our border problem. And they claim Harris is, quote unquote, leaning into her leadership on the issue. So what does that kind of leadership get America? Do you really want to find out? Can you really afford to find out? We're going to talk about more of that next time, and get on your horse and start screaming that Kamala is coming. Kamala is coming. Because the only way you prevent finding out about what Kamala is going to do with that kind of leadership is if you fail to do what Paul Revere did on that late night ride, is to wake up a nation, to wake up a colony. You've got the job to wake up a republic. So I hope you're going to do it. And you can do it by sharing this podcast, this episode, and all of them. Like us on social media and stay engaged. Please write me, feedback@rallyfortherepublic.com. Stay in the fight and never give up. Because remember, this is a country that survives when its citizens remain engaged. Otherwise, you'll end up with idiots like Kamala in the White House and AOC running Congress. That's what I have to say. I'm Bryan Rudnick. I thank you for your time.
Thank you for joining us on Rally for the Republic, where we are fighting for America's future. Visit 1776coalition.com. Rally for the Republic podcast is available on Spotify, Amazon, Apple, and Google Podcasts. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and download. Join Bryan Rudnick next time as we continue to fight for the American way of life and challenge the hypocrisy. This is Rally for the Republic.